Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
A special day. And if it's okay, I will say one more thing regarding if we could also, if it's okay, it also happens to be my grandmother's Yartzeit Yutas Kislev.
Wow.
Her name, so it should be also Le'ilin Shmas Henya Hyana Bas Shaya. She was an incredibly special woman, a real chassid, who really had Mesiras Nefesh her whole life to do what was right. And I think that I'm here tonight with all of you is making her very happy, because she very, very strongly believed in educating Jewish girls and Jewish women with the Torah and with Chassidus. So I'm going to begin by saying a phrase that she taught me when I was in high school. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I came home from school very, very, very disturbed. And she saw that something was wrong, and she asked me, "What's the matter?" And I broke down and I said, "You know, so-and-so, she thinks she's such a Hasidic person. She thinks she's such a great teacher. She thinks this and that and the other. Well, she really embarrassed me today. She said something very, very hurtful to me today." And I said, and my grandmother said to me, she didn't say, "What did she say?" All she said was, "Don't feel bad. She really didn't mean it." I said, "How do you know she didn't mean it?" She said, "Because she's a good person. Maybe she's just," and I'll say it in Yiddish and I'll translate it, "Efshar felt ir not a bissel Chassidus." I think she's just lacking a little bit of Chassidus. She'll learn a little bit more Chassidus. You'll see she's really a fine person. So that's how I begin tonight's event. Now, I'm so honored, I don't even have words, because my dear niece, who is a brand new mother, just came. Rashi, mazel tov for your newborn. Thank you for celebrating Yutas Kislev with us and everybody else that came in. So nice to see everybody here. Okay, this makes our Yom Tov even more exciting.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Okay, so now I am sure that there are many, many great teachers and great rabbis and great Rebbetzins that you have studied Chassidus with, that maybe you've learned Maimorim with them, maybe you've learned Sichos with them, maybe you've learned Tanya with them, and I'm sure you still are doing all of those things. And I'm sure that they could teach it to you a lot better than I can. I thought that maybe in the time that we have this evening, I will try to take the concept of what Chassidus is, at least the way I understand it. And of course, I don't understand much, I'll be very honest, and try to take the tiny piece that I understand of it and see how we could really bring it into our lives so that we live with Chassidus. And that's what your organization is, Living Chassidus. Living Chassidus means that we don't only study Chassidus for the sake of the knowledge. Yes, we must study Chassidus for the sake of the knowledge, because we do need the knowledge. However, if it does not affect us, if it only affects us by giving us knowledge and nothing else, then we would have been successful in attaining knowledge, but we would not have been successful in really making Chassidus relevant, and that's what Chassidus is supposed to do. Just like we know that, you know, somebody can teach mathematics and you can study math your whole life, and if you're really good at it, you could love it and you could understand it and you could apply it to different parts of your life. But the bottom line is it's going to end at a certain place. The math will make a dent in your life where it makes a dent, but that's it. The study of Torah is not like that, and the study of Chassidus is not like that either. It takes everything we have in our lives, from the study of Aleph Beis to studying the most esoteric and the most holy concepts and all the halachas and all the parshas and everything in Tanakh and everything in between, all the way to the most mundane things of eating and sleeping and drinking and going shopping and going to work and washing laundry and everything from A to Z. Chassidus could literally imbue every single aspect of our lives, and that is what it is supposed to do. It's like somebody once said to my husband, he came to my husband and he said, he's already an older person. And he said, when I was a younger man, I got married and I was having some issues in my marriage. And I went to speak to somebody, told me that I need a mashpia. So I went around and I asked people, and somebody said, go to this and this chassid. He will be a very good mashpia for you because he knows a lot of Chassidus, but he speaks English very well, and I think he'll be able to communicate with you. So he said this certain chassid became his mashpia. And he said, I'll tell you the thing he taught me that I'll never forget as long as I live. I said to him, I'm having problems in my shalom bayis. And this mentor of mine, this chassid, this mashpia of mine said to me, tell me, what do you do? He says, what do you mean, what do I do? He says, what did you study since you got here? And he says, I studied this, I studied that, I study Chassidus every single day. I have a Havrusa. He was very impressive. He studied a lot. So finally, he says to me the following. He said, well, then let me tell you something. If you studied all those things and you still cannot find it in yourself to be nicer to your wife, then the Chassidus you studied did nothing for you. You have to be able to take it, thank you so much, and apply it to yourself and to your relationship with your wife. He said, and I never forgot that. That taught me that the meaning of learning Chassidus means it has to change me, it has to change who I actually am. So in that vein, I want to begin first by sharing with you something that I think, I don't know if I ever shared it with you here in the past or not, but it's something that it's amazing to see what the study of Chassidus could actually accomplish. So this story happened, my grandson is now 15, so it happened 10 or 11 years ago. He was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and it was Yutas Kislev. And just like when we grew up, and just like you're doing right here, Yutas Kislev was a yontif. So we came home from school, and we knew that that night, the supper, the dinner in the house would be like a yontif dinner. You know, we didn't have everything that we have today. Then, you know, you never really ate ice cream, unless it was, you know, the summer or a special occasion. We knew that we would have some delicious dessert that night. We knew there would be candles on the table, and we would sing Nigunim. It was a special time. So I decided, of course, I would try to do the same for my children. So my son was living in New York then. My daughter was not anymore. And I said to him, come tonight with your kids, whatever I told him the night before, for supper, we'll have a Yutas Kislev, you know, yontif meal. And we invited a few other people. And so we're sitting at this table, and this little boy who's 4 or 5 years old is with us, my grandson, and we washed, we made a beautiful suda, we were sitting and eating, and then my husband said a few words. We asked some of the guests if they want to say something, and then my husband said to my grandson, do you want to tell us, did you do something special in school today? And he said, yes, we did something very special today. And we said, do you want to tell us what it was? Now imagine this teacher he had must have been an absolute genius, a fantastic teacher, because he was able to repeat this to us as a 4 or 5 year old. He said, well, today, you know, they all wore white shirts that day. It was a special day. And he said, in the middle of the day, my Mora took all the desks, all the tables, and she pushed them all together like this. And she told us all to stand around the big table. And then she walked around with a box. And she told us all, each of us, to close our eyes and to stick in our hand and to take out one thing from the box and to put it on the table. He said, and everybody did that. And then my Mora put away the box, and she told us all to look at what we took out. And we looked at what we took out, and then our Mora told us each to go around the table. We each had a turn, and we had to describe what was the item that we, what was the thing that we took out. So I said, so what was the thing that you took out? And he said, Bubby, really everybody had the same kind of thing, but each one looked different. So I said, what do you mean? He said, he couldn't remember the word lighter, candle holder in Yiddish. So he says, the thing that you put a candle in when you light Shabbos candles? Well, all of us had one of those kinds of things that we took out of the box. And our teacher asked us each to describe them. And I said, so what happened? So he said, well, one boy said his thing was very, very tall and very skinny. Another boy said his thing was very, very short and very fat. Another one was very beautiful. Bubby, there was one that was silver, was beautiful. And there was one, and they all had different kinds of candle holders. And the teacher made sure to impress upon them by they themselves saying that each one of them was different. They totally got it. Then he said, my Mora went to the window and she closed the window shades, and then she closed the lights, and it was very dark in the room. And then she took a candle, she took a tea light, and she put it into each of the holders. And then she went around and she lit each one. And then she asked each of us to say what our candle looks like. And we all said the same thing because every candle looked the same. I said, wow, that's so interesting. What did you learn from that? And he said, then my Mora opened the lights and the window shade. And you know what she said? She told us, look around and see how everybody here looks. Some of us are taller, some of us are shorter, some of us have dark hair, some of us have white hair, some of us have blue eyes, some of us have, and she went through everything. So some of us are wearing white clothes, some of us are wearing sneakers, some of us are wearing boots. They went through everything. So we are all very, very different. But you know what's the same in each and every one of us? Our neshama, our candle. The candle is the neshama, the flame. All of us have the same exact flame within us. It's just the holder that looks different. So she said, if you want to know what does it mean that the Alter Rebbe was released from prison and it became, today is called Rosh Hashanah LaChassidus, what does that mean? She said, it means that today is a new start. And just like on Rosh Hashanah, we make good on everything that happened until now. And we have all the way till, of course, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, we have till Yom Kippur. But what do? We think about all the things that we could make better. And we'll have to look at everybody with a good eye. He said, so our Mora taught us that when we see another Jew, don't only see their outside. Don't only see what's different. See what's the same, even though you can't really see it. You have to look deep for it. Now, I don't know how much of it he really comprehended, but he was able to repeat it in a very comprehensible fashion because she showed it to them. She demonstrated to them, here's a candle holder. It could look 100 different ways. Here's a tea light. It could only look one way. This is the flame. And that's really what it means when we study the whole concept of Chassidus. We know that what did the Alter Rebbe bring? He brought, his name was Schneier, Zalman, Schneier, the two lights, the light of Nigla and the light of Chassidus. What is the difference? We know that Nigla is the Torah. It's been available since the giving of the Torah. Everybody can study it, whoever has access to it. Chassidus was not available to the masses. It was really available just to the few. We all know the famous story that it seemed, it doesn't only seem, it was physically the case that the Alter Rebbe was arrested and he was in prison, and Al Pi Teva, it made a lot of sense. He was maligned for different things. Some were, of course, they weren't true. And even by, unfortunately, Jews who felt that he was doing something that wasn't belonging among the Jews of knowledge. However, we know that really there was a kitrug l'mayla. It was felt that how could the Alter Rebbe take these treasures, these incredible gems, and just let the whole world have them? They were reserved for Yehidei scholars. They were reserved for the very, very few, very, very holy, pure neshamas. But the Alter Rebbe foresaw that without us being able to have this, the generation then, and you could imagine all the generations following that what would become of us? So he was ready to give up his life so that we would be able to study Torah and understand it in a way that we needed in order to wake us up from our faint. That's how it's explained to Chassidim, that the Jews were literally, they were in danger of fainting, and not just a small faint, but in a danger of literally going into a coma, so to speak. So that's why today, we all wish each other, we say to each other, L'shana taiva tikasev b'seichasem b'limet ha'chasidus or b'darchei ha'chasidus. What does that mean? It means exactly what we said in the beginning, that we wish each other that we should have a fantastic year in learning Chassidus, but also b'darchei ha'chasidus, in the way of action in Chassidus. So every single thing we do has to have that action-oriented base. We have to have that feeling of understanding where Chassidus comes in and helps us see the light of what we are doing. So in relation to this, I want to just share with you just one part I want to read to you. It's something that is, I love it. I reread it every year. It's a letter that the Rebbe wrote to President Shazar, who was then the president of Eretz Yisrael. And it actually, this letter was dated Yud Daled Teves 5714. That would be December 20th, 1953. Okay, so it's like 72 years ago. Okay, and this is what happened then was that Kfar Chabad was finally established. The first real Chabad, well, it's not, I shouldn't say the first. The first was really in Eretz Yisrael, the Tzemach Tzedek Shul. That was both years before. And so Kfar Chabad was established. And what does the Rebbe write to him in this letter? Okay, the Rebbe writes as follows. Of course, I'm reading it in English. Okay, the Rebbe touches on the parallels between the Ruchniistic light that was unleashed on Yud Daled Kislev and modern day lighting methods, as we know, electricity. Okay, and this is so beautiful. And these are the words in English that the Rebbe says. It was with pleasure that I received the news that electrical power has been installed in Kfar Chabad, and that Farbrengens were already held by its light on the luminous day of Yutes Kislev. I am told that the matter was arranged thanks to your effort and vigor, and I thank you and congratulate you on this. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe is sending a letter to the president of Eretz Yisrael, President Shazar, then, who, by the way, I'm sure you've seen this or heard this, or seen pictures. He came to visit the Rebbe. He himself came to visit the Rebbe, and he had lo Yechidus, very, very amazing things that happened between him and the Rebbe. And the Rebbe thanks him for going himself. The president himself made an effort to make sure that there would be light, electric light, available for the Farbrengen and Kfar Chabad on Yutes Kislev. And then the Rebbe says to him the following. It is an age-old Jewish custom to seek a deeper meaning and instruction in every occurrence. As per the saying of the Mishnah, who is wise? He who learns from every man. This is from Perek Daled in Pirkei Avos. So, of course, who's a really wise person? A wise person learns from everybody else. Everyone we meet, we learn something from them. But in connection to that, the Baal Shem Tov expounded upon that. And what did the Baal Shem Tov do? He added that one must also learn something from every event. And if every event, it's every detail. So this is real hashgacha pratis, detailed hashgacha. So we learn from everyone, and then we learn from every event and the details of every event. From the day of his geula on Yutes Kislev, the double light of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Ladi began to spread, free of all disturbances and obstructions, and in a manner that could reach also the simplest of folk. Indeed, this is the elementary principle of Chassidus, to draw down and connect the ultimate heights with the lowest depths. So, of course, we know this. This was the triumph of Yutes Kislev, that the Alter Rebbe was triumphant, and the Kitrug Milmaila above was broken. It was taken away, it was removed, and Chassidus was able to come down. The highest teachings were able to come down to the lowest places and to the lowest people. The electrical force is one of the hidden forces of nature, okay? We know Chassidus was hidden until the Alter Rebbe brought it down. Electricity, we all have so much use from electricity that we forget that it was actually, before it was discovered, nobody knew about it. It was totally a hidden force. We cannot perceive it by our five senses. We know of its existence only through its causations and effects. We would never know about it if we hadn't tapped into it. Yet this hidden force most potently banishes darkness and illuminates the night. Thus, electricity is a physical analog for the spiritual force of Chassidus, whereby the hidden element of Torah and its most arcane secrets, as revealed by a Hasidic teaching and the Hasidic way of life, banish the darkness of the material world and illuminate the murkiness of the physical existence. So even if you think about this on a daily basis, everywhere we are. This is such an excellent example. I know this past summer, if any of you were here, there was a time where there was a big brownout, they called it, right? And then there was power outs, and there were a few days it was extremely, excruciatingly hot, and all the electricity went off, if you remember this. I remember thinking to myself, I don't know how anybody lived without air conditioning. I literally was beside myself. I didn't know what to do with myself, right? And how often do I think about the power of electricity? Very not often. You know when I think about it? When it doesn't work. You know, the houses here, they're very old. And ask anybody who bought a house in these neighborhoods, when I bought my house, if you plugged in 2 appliances at once, that was the end. You couldn't do anything, okay? Everybody had the same thought. My first $10,000 that I spent on my house, you could never see because it was in the walls creating new wires, right? Okay, so it's very important thing, electricity, and it's an amazing power. But had we not know, but we would never know about it had it not been found. Okay, we have Thomas Edison and we have whatever, but we know the ISHA put it in here. Today, it seems almost like nothing compared to all the other things that we're starting to discover in the world. All the airwaves, all the sound waves, everything. I mean, ask somebody, how is it possible? I once had a genius, literally genius professor at my table one Shabbos. And he was waxing eloquent about how this works and how you send emails and how it goes through here and it goes through there. And I said to him, okay, could you explain it so that I could understand it? He sat there for 25 minutes. I did not understand a half a word he said. And after he finished, he said, so are you satisfied? I said, I can't be a liar. No, I don't understand a word. He said, guess what? I explained it to you, but you want to know the truth? I don't either. Because if I'm going to be really truthful, there are things that God put into the world that we don't see. Now, this was not a religious person, but just because he worked in it and he realized. So we have, if you ever thought about it, how is it possible that I am sitting on Eastern Parkway and I press click and you are getting my email literally in South Africa? How did it get there? Because there are powers that are here that we don't see. I think this is obviously one of the things that the Rebbe said when he spoke about if we open up our eyes, we would see that we're really living in a Geula world. But it sounds easy, but it's obviously not easy at all. But what Chassidus comes to teach us is that it is infusing everything, even the things that maybe we don't see them so clearly. If we infuse Chassidus into those parts of our lives, they will become much more alive. We could take every single mitzvah that we do on a daily basis. Think about it. We have Shabbos every single week. You know what? You would think after a while, Shabbos must get boring. Every week, we do the same thing. We make the same challah, we eat the same gefilte fish, whatever. Now, the truth is that if it does ever start to feel like it's getting old, God forbid, that means that we are not infusing it enough with life, with joy. We have to change it up. We have to do something different. What is that thing that we have to do different? And the thing that we have to do different is we have to try to imbue every single thing that we do with the teachings of Chassidus. And I would say that what does that really mean? It really means, take any one of your days. You wake up at this and this hour and you go through your day. Whatever your day is, you wake up, you have your routine, you do this, you do this, you do this. If we stop to think, every one of those things gives us an opportunity to become a better person. I want to share with you that I'm sorry that I don't remember the exact date. But this was still in the time of the end of the Farbrengen Rebbe's reign, where there was a particular Jew who once he didn't know what to do. He was ready to, he grew up, he was born in the old country, he came out of the old country, he came to the United States with his family, so he pretty much grew up in the United States, and he went to a day school, and then he went to another, and he finished school, and he didn't know what to do. Should he go to another school? Should he get married? Should he go do business, etc., etc.? And there's a whole letter that the Farbrengen Rebbe writes back to him. And in the letter, the Farbrengen Rebbe explains to him that what he has to do is look at everything, the signposts in his life. And those signposts, if he really looks into them, they will help him know exactly what he should do in his life. And we should never take for granted, because there are things that we don't think that they matter. But the Rebbe teaches us that everything that happens in our life, from where we were born to who our parents are, to where we went to school, to where we end up, it's never, ever, ever random. It's never by accident. It is absolutely preordained from the ISHA. It's providential. It's supposed to be that way. Why? Because I am supposed to be here so that I may meet somebody else. And sometimes, not only is it for me, but if I'm somewhere else, I might be able to take somebody along on a great ride together with me. I have that obligation as well. When I was in high school, we heard an amazing story. I'm pretty sure we heard it from Rabbi Groner, Olav Hashalom. He told us, this is years and years and years ago. You know, first of all, people didn't fly as freely as people fly today. There were very few flights, especially overseas. It was a big, big deal. So there was a Lubavitcher lady who she was very frightened of flying. So she never flew anywhere if she could help it. Then she had a very close relative. I don't know if it was her child or I'm not sure. And the wedding was going to be overseas. And she said that she's not going to go. There's no way she could go on a plane. She just can't. And her family was very upset. And they told her she has to make an effort to go because it's her family. And she said, I would make an effort, but I can't. I'm terrified. So her family said to her, why don't you write to the Rebbe and ask the Rebbe what you should do? Write the whole story that you're terrified, your family's bothering you, they should go. And so she wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and she wrote exactly what the story was. She really, truly wants to go there. But she has this fear. She knows it's maybe not rational, but she can't do anything about it, and so she can't go. And her family's very upset with her. So the Rebbe told her, I don't know everything, what he told her, but a few of the things that I remember, he said the Rebbe told her she should learn certain things, say certain prakim tilim, and she should give extra tzedakah, and she should think certain things. I don't know what else he told her, and everything will be okay. Okay? She goes, she gets on the plane, she does everything that Rebbe tells her, and thank Hashem, she makes it to where she has to be. Everything is good. She's at this wedding. She's so happy that she went. Everybody's delighted. And the day comes that she has to come back home. So she gets on the plane to come back home. She gets on, she does everything again. Everything is great. They're almost landing, and suddenly the pilot says, I'm sorry, there's an issue with the landing gear. We're going to have to make an emergency landing. So everybody, please brace yourself, sit like this, do like this, whatever. Don't worry, it's going to be okay, but it's going to be rough. So and she flips out. And her family's like, don't look, just put, they don't know what to do with her. And she's hysterical. And they're like keeping her, trying very, very hard. Okay, finally, the plane lands. It's very bumpy. And they see like there's emergency vehicles all around, but Baruch Hashem, nothing happened. It was bumpy, but everyone was okay. Okay, she literally is hyperventilating. She cannot come to herself. Finally, everybody deplanes. She's the last one off the plane. And they're like, oh, thank God we got home. We're never going to hear the end of this. Anyway, she comes home. She's so distraught about this. that she decided she's going to write to the Rebbe to say thank you for the miracles that happened on the way there. But why? If the Rebbe said everything's going to be okay, why did she have to have this? It scared the wits out of her. And she wrote this to the Rebbe. And do you know what the Rebbe answered her? The Rebbe answered her, why do you care that because of you, everybody else on the plane was also saved? And she said, she realized then, what does it mean that you live only for yourself? Or you might be, she goes, I might be somewhere where because I'm there and I got a bracha, I'm doing something right, everybody around me could also benefit from it. And that is it's like a real paradigm shift of how we see life. You know, we see life, we think sometimes we go somewhere, you ever go into a store and you see, let's say it's before Purim, okay? I'm just using this as an example because I remember once I felt that way very strongly. Came to a store, had young kids, and they wanted to buy everything to give their friends shalach manos. You know, you have 25 people in your class, you have to give 25 shalach manos, right? Okay. So I'm thinking, you know what? Okay, buy this, everybody's looking. And I see a lady, and she has a number of children with her, and I could see, you know, sometimes you just have that gut feeling that her kid, she wants to buy her kids everything, but she can't. It's impossible. There's no way. And I'm thinking to myself, I have to do one of two things. Either I cannot let my kids buy what they want in front of this lady. It just was breaking my heart. Or I have to find a way that this lady should also be able to buy whatever she wants. And I realized, you know what? Maybe Hashem put me here so I could teach my children something. I don't know why it fell into my head. And I said to my children, come to the back of the store for a minute. And we went to the back of the store and I said, listen, you see, not everybody could have everything they want. Nobody has everything they want. But you know what? I want to say like this. If you think that we should buy this for you, I think, why do you think we should also buy something for other people who have less than you have? And I said, so you take this basket and fill it up with whatever you want for your friends and put it on the counter there. That's it. I didn't tell them why. And then I went to the counter and I told the owner of the store, who I know very well, when this lady comes, don't tell her how, what, when, just let her take the stuff. Tell me how much it costs and I'll pay for it. Now, why? It had nothing to do with me paying for it. Trust me, I didn't get richer or poorer from the whatever, 20 or whatever it was. It made absolutely no difference, you know, physically in my life. It was a message that maybe this was a reason that maybe my children had to learn that evening that you have to be kind to another Jew. It's easy to tell somebody, be kind to another Jew, but to show somebody in a real situation is a learning experience that doesn't come around so often. So we have to grab that experience. And when somebody sees us doing that, it changes everything. It's like you never know, you're walking down the street and it's icy and an old person is trying to cross the street. And you don't know what you accomplish by walking over and taking that old lady's hand and crossing her the street. Not only are you crossing her and giving her the ability to cross the street safely, which is a fantastic mitzvah in its own right, but anyone who sees that immediately, even if they're subconsciously not realizing, they are seeing that somebody just helped somebody. And maybe next time I should help somebody. This is what Chassidus teaches us. It teaches us that why do we teach our children that when they wake up, everybody knows when our children wake up in the morning, we teach them that they say Moida Ani. And we teach them that they should gis negelwasser. We teach our children that they should brush their teeth in the morning. They should brush their hair. We have all these different routines. Now, I remember when I was growing up, like all of us and all of you and everybody else, and Emertz Hashem, everybody will do this with their children. So we say Moida Ani in the morning. And I remember that in those years, today probably pennies don't mean anything. I hear there's even talk of removing the penny from the American currency. Oh, they did already? Oh, okay. So you see, I'm backwards. And every morning, my mother had this pushka, and every morning she would give us a few coins and a few pennies. And she would say every single morning, before you do anything else, after you say Moida Ani, brachas, whatever, put a few pennies in the pushka. Okay, we did it. It became like our habit. As we got older, I remember asking my father, why is it so important to give even a penny every day, isn't it better for somebody to give $100 once a month or 1,000, whatever it is? You'll get much more money to the poor. And he said, no, the reason why you give even only 1 penny every single day is because what that is doing, it's obviously generating tzedakah, but even more, it's making you into a giving human being. It's making you, it's becoming part of your nature. Now, if I do this every day, just like I say my da'ani every day, just like I brush my teeth every day, I also put money in the pushka every day. So I know that this is who I am. Every day I have to do this. That's what Chassidus teaches us. It teaches us that when we eat not just because we're hungry, and not just because we need to nourish our physical being, but because we know, Chassidus teaches us that even, I don't know if you ever learned, I'm sure you did learn this, but I always found this fascinating since I was in school, that when you have, it actually teaches us that when you have a craving for something, your soul is craving to be mevared the netzutzos of that particular food. Makes me feel much better. I love candy. So, why? Because there's something that you crave a certain thing because it is actually part of your job to make a bracha on this thing, to elevate this particular thing. Now, obviously, that's a very, very elementary example, but this is really what it means when we speak about what Chassidus means to really, make it, to really, really make it come alive. Does anybody want to ask anything, first of all? Anybody want to say something, ask something? Yes, please.
I thought it was really interesting when you said how you're giving the example about how everyone has a different candle holder, so to speak, but the light is the same, no matter what they look like. And it says that, and when the Alter Rebbe was released from prison, then it looked as if it's okay to now bring this to the lowest level. What I thought of, I said, it was almost as if the Alter Rebbe already saw that. He saw how every single person actually has this a pure neshama. Everyone in essence is the same level. So to say that Chassidus only belongs to the purest of souls, I thought that was such an interesting term, because really everyone is the purest of soul. So therefore everyone should have Chassidus. So when the Alter Rebbe was released from prison, it's almost as if he was he kind of opened. It was kind of that opened up our eyes to be able to see that. And then I think that's really cool. Then later on, through the conversation, we're seeing how I don't know, that awareness was there, but it definitely is that awareness now, where even the things that we see as the lowest level of food, really in its purest form has the same essence, where it's all light. I thought that was very cool.
And it's very true. The way you just brought it out is, it's really, you did a good job. Anybody else want to share something? Okay, maybe we sing a nigun. We all know that today, when the Alter Rebbe was released from prison, and he was saying Perek Nun Hey in Tehillim, and this is the famous, very, very beautiful nigun called Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, which is really unbelievable. The words mean that my soul was redeemed. That's exactly what happened when the Alter Rebbe was redeemed on Yutes Kislev. So, by the way, I just want to say that 10 years ago, I went to Russia, and we went to the prison where the Alter Rebbe was kept, and it just was it was just it's like today, it's like a museum, Nebuch, but it's like when you I don't know what's going on there today, but 10 years ago, when we were, I was I just stood there, and I was it made a whole new dimension, because it's when you read things and you hear things, same thing, but when you see it, that a person like a Rebbe should have been, and we all know the stories and the black nasty carriage that they put him in and all of these horrible things, but here we are today, which is really, really unbelievably remarkable, that here we are, stronger than ever. So I think we can also all sing to that. L'chaim to that too. Okay. Pada b'shalayim nafshi mikravli ki v'rabim hayu imadi pada b'shalayim nafshi mikravli ki v'rabim hayu imadi yishma kel v'yanem v'yashev kedem sela yishma kel v'yanem v'yashev kedem sela sherein halifa islamai Asherein halifa islamai v'la yaru elaikim v'la yaru elaikim shalach yadav bishlaymav hilel Hilel berisai, Hakol mahamai, Spivo krav libai, Rako devarav mishemen, Behema, psichais, Hashlei, hal Hashem yehaveh, Behu yechalkelecha, La yitain le'ayla might la tzadik, Biata Elohim, Tairidem liver shachas. Biata Elohim, Tairidem liver shachas. Anshe damim. Damim umirma la yehtu yemehem damim umirma La yehtu yemehem Ba'ani eftach bach 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 eftach bach Ba'ani 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 eftach bach eftach bach. I don't know how much longer this is supposed to go, but oh, okay, so I'll just share a few other brief things about the Alter Rebbe, because we are celebrating, of course, the release of the Alter Rebbe from prison. And the Alter Rebbe, just some very beautiful facts I'm sure that you know about. The Alter Rebbe was, I mean, it's funny for regular, for measly person like me to sit here and speak the greatness of the Alter Rebbe. It's not really quantifiable. One of the things that the Alter Rebbe is known for was he was known to also be an excellent composer and a beautiful singer. And there are 10 nigunim that are attributed to the Alter Rebbe that he composed them and taught them to the Hasidim. And there is an nigun, and song was a very, very special, integral part of the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus, of Chassidus Chabad. And there is actually an amazing story that's told that there was a Chassid who was a very, very humble, tmimistic Jew. And unfortunately, not because of anything that he did wrong, he was born into a family that was very, very, they were poverty stricken, and he wasn't able to go to yeshiva only for a few years. Then he had to leave school and go work to help the family. So he never really learned how to learn. And on top of that, he was not gifted with a sharp mind. So learning was extremely difficult for him. But he loved Yiddishkeit, and he loved the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus. So he used to come when the Alter Rebbe would teach Chassidus, speak Chassidus, and he would listen. And he would try so hard to understand and absorb it. But really, he couldn't understand what the Alter Rebbe was saying. And he was very, very pained by this. And one time, he had Yehidus by the Alter Rebbe. And he came in, and he started to cry. And he couldn't even speak. The Alter Rebbe asked him, what's the problem? And he could barely contain himself. And finally, he let out and he said, as hard as I try, I could wake up 4 o'clock in the morning and study. I could study with the greatest minds. I want to understand your Chassidus, because you teach that when somebody learns Chassidus and they understand it and then they make it part of themselves, that's when they're really a Chassid. But because I don't understand it, how could I internalize it? So I could never really be a Chassid. And he was mamish broken by this. The Alter Rebbe told him the following. He said to him that when he listens to Chassidus, or he wants to understand Chassidus, he should sing the Alter Rebbe's nigun. And through this, when he really concentrates on this, because this man was able to sing very well, and while he's singing, he thinks about wanting to understand what the Chassidus is. For him, that way, the message will get through to him. And that is what happened. So we see from this that singing Nigunim was always a very, very big part of Chassidus Chabad, all the way till our generation, where we actually had a great, tremendous merit to sit by Farbrengens or stand by Farbrengens and have the Rebbe speak and then sing Nigunim between the Farbrengens. And it's just, when you hear that kind of story, you realize that, the singing was not because the Rebbe was trying to rest from the speaking, or because the Rebbe wanted the Chassidim to be able to move around and whatever. It was because it was another avenue of understanding the Chassidus that the Rebbe just said. There's another story told about the Alter Rebbe, which I think is really interesting for today when we speak about, there was tremendous opposition from the Misnagdim. We know that the Alter Rebbe said that the 3 hours that he spent in the Misnagid's house from when he was released until he was able to go back where he wanted to be was worse than the whole imprisonment. And you wonder about this. So it's before, when the Alter Rebbe started to become known, before he was trying to be hidden, people didn't really know who he was. So but it started getting out there. And people heard that this man, they say he's a tzaddik, he has a weird kind of Judaism. And people were getting very, those who didn't understand what it was. And they were not saying, let's put it this way, they were not saying very positive, beautiful things. But one day the Alter Rebbe was traveling through a certain city, and it happened to be a city full of very, very heavily strong Misnagdim, but very great Talmidei Chachamim. They were very great Torah scholars. And he was traveling through this town, and he had to daven mincha before it got too dark. So he went into the shul in this city. He didn't say anything. He didn't say who he was, but apparently somebody in this particular shul thought that this was the Alter Rebbe. He smelled that it was the Alter Rebbe, and he started spreading the word in the shul as they started davening mincha, that this is that famous Rebbe of Chabad that's starting this weird way of living, this Chassidus. And the Alter Rebbe was davening. He made like he was unaware. And what happened was, while he was davening, the Gabbai, without telling the Alter Rebbe, as soon as they finished davening, the Gabbai right away got onto the bima before anyone had a chance to leave the shul. So the Alter Rebbe was also still in the shul. And he banged on the bima and he said, "Congregation, everybody here, today we have a genius in our midst. Somebody who's visiting, he passed through our shul and he's here now. They say he knows the answers to everything. So, because he's here now, everybody throw out your questions, and I'm sure this genius will answer all your questions." They thought they're going to trap the Alter Rebbe and they're going to catch him and they're going to, okay. So now, and these were not simple questions. These were very, very great scholars. The Alter Rebbe, he realized that, this was not very nice what they did, but he decided, they said it, he's going to stay and he's going to answer. So the first person asked a question, a very difficult question. The Alter Rebbe looked at him, and then the Alter Rebbe said, "Does anybody else want to ask anything?" So they probably thought he doesn't know the answer, so he's asking. So somebody else said, "Yes, I also have a question." So the other guy said, "No, let him answer, the first person first." So the Alter Rebbe said, "No, everyone who has a question should ask their question now." So in a row, everybody asked the questions. Now, just to keep track of the questions would have been a tremendous feat. And they were very complicated questions. And they were all in their hearts. They were excited that now they're going to show that the Alter Rebbe is not what they think what the world thinks he is. God forbid. Anyway, they all asked these genius questions. And suddenly, the Alter Rebbe started to sing a nigun. And as he started singing the nigun, all these people, suddenly their eyes closed and they started to shake and to tremble, and tears started rolling out of their eyes. Their faces became red, and the Rebbe kept singing. Then he stopped, he finished singing this nigun, and it became quiet. They all opened up their eyes and they all looked at each other, and they all realized in that moment that each of them got in their mind the answer to their question that they had asked while the Alter Rebbe was singing. And it's told that the vast majority of this city followed the Alter Rebbe and became his Hasidim. So this was a tiny little piece. We're saying the power of who the Alter Rebbe was. And we know that the Alter Rebbe wrote the Tanya. We all know, doesn't matter which language you open up the Tanya in the very front of the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe writes that because he doesn't have time to see everybody and answer everybody's questions, he's going to write down the way that people should conduct themselves. And if they still have questions, he uses the term they should go to the Gedolei Sheba'ir, to the great people in the city, and they will help them also. And this is the treasure that we have today, that the Rebbe, that our Rebbe spent so much time sending people around the world to print this Sefer Tanyas all over the world in the strangest, most remote, most weird places in the world. Literally. Why? Because it's not only a physical book. It is extremely spiritual and extremely holy, and really does have the answers to everything. And we know that, you know what? When you want to live, what does it say? What does the ISHA ask of us? It says, the ISHA asks nothing. All he asks is, make for me a little corner in your home, a little corner in your heart where I can feel comfortable living. So this is really what the message of Chassidus is. I'm going to conclude with a story where you want to see, right? So what does it mean? We know it means that when the well springs of Chassidus will be everywhere, as chutza as you could get, emasai kasimar, when will Mashiach come? Then, when we will have that the words of Chassidus are covering the world like the water covers the sea. Okay. When it means chutza, it means obviously every Jew in the world. And it means also across the whole world. I mean, it must mean every human being in the world is going to be a better person. It's going to be a better place, the entire world. So I'll share with you a story that happened many years ago. You know how I remember how many years ago it was? Because the fax machine was a big deal then. I'm very old. Okay. So one day, my husband comes home from his office and he tells me the strangest thing happened today. I got 3 faxes from 3 different shluchim in New Jersey. They each sent me the same fax. What was the fax? And he brought home all 3 copies. It was a fax of an article. We still have it actually, of an article in, I forgot the name of the New Jersey newspaper, whatever it was called. And 3 different shluchim in different parts of New Jersey saw this article and they all got very excited. So each one of them separately, unbeknown, faxed it to my husband. What was this article? And this is what the article said. It said, it was a story that somewhere in New Jersey, there was a little child, not a Jewish child, from a blue-collar working family who never, a little child, was diagnosed with a terrible, terrible illness. This story must have taken place like at least close to 30 years ago. And this child's family was distraught. And the doctor said that there's really, the regular treatment they have at this point, it's not going to help him. However, there is a new treatment, but it's still considered experimental, so the insurance will not pay for it. So if they have $100,000, they could, and the family was distraught. Where were they going to get $100,000 from? They didn't know what to do with themselves. Now, one of these, and they started telling their friends on their block, and the people on the block started telling their friends, and one of their friends knew somebody who was a DJ on a radio station. So the DJ announced on the radio station that they're making a fund. It was before GoFundMe or anything else of that sort. And they started to make a collection. The radio station, a TV station heard it on the radio station, so they announced it. And it started getting out there that they need this money desperately to save this little child. Now, what happened was, one day in this newspaper, it's telling the story of this child, and they're writing up a story that this is what happened. And miraculously, some good Samaritan who does not want to be identified, so his lawyer is speaking for him in this article, came forward and said, how much money do they still need? And I don't know, maybe they need another 50 grand. They need a tremendous amount of money. And he said, you know what? I want to be anonymous, but I'm going to give this money. And he gave the money, and the child was treated, and the child survived. And the family was they didn't know what to do with themselves with gratitude. And it became a story. And one day the reporter came and said, can we write up the story in the newspaper? So they said, yeah, we don't know who the Samaritan is. We don't know who this good man is, but we know his lawyer. You could talk to his lawyer. So in this article, they're describing the lawyer had a really Jewish name, like Ben Cohen, something like that. And he's describing my client doesn't want to be known. He's actually came from an Italian family, and it described the whole story. Why did your client offer this money? Why did he come forth? And he said because he came from a very poor family himself, and he never thought he'd have anything, but somebody gave him a break when he became older and started a business. And because somebody helped him, he was lucky, and he really made it very well. And he decided, you know what, when he's able, he's going to give back to people who need help too. So this story came around. He lives in a town nearby. He saw this whole thing and he figured, you know what, time for me to give back. Let me help out. So, okay. And the reporter says to him, wow, that's amazing. What inspired you to do it for this story now? And he said, well, I'll tell you what inspired me. Somebody gave me a present. It was a book. And I put it on my night table. And I couldn't really sleep one night. I never opened up the book yet. So I decided to open up the book. And I opened up to the book, and the book I opened the page to it said the following: God does not demand much of you. God demands one thing. He asks each and every human being, make a little corner in your home for me where I will be comfortable. Make wherever you are, in your heart, in your home, in your workspace, make sure that there's a space for God in it. Make sure that you do what God wants. Somebody comes and needs money, you give them, etc., etc. And that inspired me so much. And I saw this story, and so I decided that's what I'm going to do. So the reporter, just on a whim, said to him, so tell me, do you know the name of the book that your client was reading? And he said, yeah. The book is called Toward a Meaningful Life, The Wisdom of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And these shluchim saw this story, and they knew my husband wrote the book, so they sent him these facts. Each one of them saw the story. My husband was like, literally, I never saw him look like that. He was like, what? He was like flipped. So he decided, this was literally in the era when, I mean, we had computers then, but if you wrote a nice note to somebody, you wrote it on a paper, and you sent it in that era. So the next day, my husband says, could you go to, when you go to, could you buy me a nice card? What I'm going to do is I'm going to write a card, and I don't know who the guy who gave the money is, but I'll find out if I could send it, what the lawyer's contact info, and they had the lawyer's contact info because they wanted still people to give more money. And I'll just send it, I say to the lawyer, could you please give this to your client? My husband wrote a note. I was so moved. My friends in New Jersey sent me this article. I had the great honor of working with the Rebbe, and I wrote the book, and I was like, and I can't believe what you did. I just want to tell you, you're such a good person, God should make more people like you, etc., whatever else he wrote. Okay. Never, ever thought he would hear from this man again. A few days, maybe a week later, my husband gets a phone call from the lawyer, and he says, my client got your card, and he is delighted. He would love to know if he could meet you. And my husband said, of course. He says, he knows that you eat kosher, obviously. And he says, can I ask you, are you married? So my husband says, yes. He says, okay, because he wants to go out with his wife to meet you and your wife. Could you go to a kosher restaurant of your choice, and we'll meet. And I was like, this is really funny. Who are these people? Okay, we'll do it. These people became very, very good friends of ours. They are Catholics, the nicest people in the world. They came to our children's weddings. I was so nervous. I thought she's going to come. She was never at a wedding with, men in one part of the hall, women in another part of the hall. Who's going to take care of her? I rounded up the whole family to take care of her and everybody. And I was thinking, she came. She was the most sneeziest dressed person in the hall. She looked gorgeous, perfect, beautiful. It was amazing. Literally, they had the best time of their lives. We became very friendly with them. A few years later, they sent us they told us that their daughter got engaged. Now, they are Catholics. The daughter got engaged to a Southern Baptist. And they said to us, we know that you will not attend the wedding because obviously you won't come to a church, and we respect that. But is it okay if we send you the invitation? Because we want you to know that you're really invited. My husband said, of course, you could send it. We'll be so honored to get your invitation. And we got the invitation, and then we realized they really did want us to feel invited, but listen to this invitation, okay? The invitation was literally like the size of a booklet, like a playbill almost, And it was magnificent. It was wrapped, I can't even tell you. I opened it up, and it was like, oh, I got such an education. The bishop, this is going to do this ceremony, and Monsignor, that is going to do that, and this gala is going to do that. I didn't know from my head to my toe, all these denominations. And then it said, at this and this point of the ceremony, the bride will read selected verses from the book Toward a Meaningful Life on love and marriage. And we weren't at the wedding, but they sent us pictures of her doing that. And so this shows you, what does it mean when the ISHA says, make me a corner in your world so that I could dwell. It means that, yes, we have an obligation to ourselves and to every single Jew in the world. We also have an obligation to teach Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach to all the people that are not Jews but are good people and can help bring the world to a place where the world can accept Mashiach. And this is the miracle of Chassidus. Imagine a world without Chabad houses. It's not a world. It's literally not. It's just unbelievable. So I want to leave everybody here with a tremendous bracha that all of us should be really, really blessed by Hashem, that we should be able to fulfill the potential that Hashem put within us and gave us. And we all have the same Torah and the same Chassidus, and we also all have various different potentials within us. Some of us were created to do certain things, that others of us were created to do other things. And every one of us is beyond important. It's not like one of us can substitute for the other. We could help each other. It's a very special thing to help each other, but we have to continue and do what we have to do, each and every one of us. And together, the entire world will be ready for Mashiach. So I just want to say, everybody, I want to wish all of you, you should have a ksiva v'hasima taiva. It should be a year filled with amazing limut Chassidus and darkei Chassidus, and we should be able to greet Mashiach immediately. Yeah, sure. You want to say something? Yes, we could. Yes.
Before we go there, can I ask, do you mind sharing a tidbit about the kasha?
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I will. It's at the table if anybody would like.
Does anybody want to share about the kasha?
Can I just say, kasha is any kind of cereal?
That's so funny.
So, all I know is that when I grew up, this is what we learned, okay? I know there's a lot of different versions and different stories behind it, but we grew up with this saying that whoever ate kasha and Lubavitch will never be lost from Lubavitch. What does that mean? Whoever ate kasha and Lubavitch is like what you said. Whoever ate grains, and what does that mean? So we actually eat kasha for that reason. We eat because that's the word. But it means much more of a deeper level. Of course, we eat it because that's how we could do physically. It means that if you were touched by Lubavitch in a way that, when you eat, you take something in, right? If you took in even one grain of something from Chassidus Chabad, it will stay with you your whole life. And it will never depart from you. And some people will tell you that, you know what? You meet people and they'll say, I found out when I came back to Yiddishkeit that I never knew anything. And I found out that, yes, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my great whatever, he was touched by somebody in Lubavitch, or she was touched. So there's always, it's a promise. Sometimes promises take longer. Sometimes they take one generation. Sometimes they take longer. But it will happen.
Thank you.
Of course.
Before we start, is it okay if we take a selfie together?
Do everything you want.
Okay, and then we'll sing the niggun.
Whatever works.
Special thank you to our anonymous donor. We announced it in the beginning, but Lily Nishmas tonight is Lily Nishmas Chaya Bella Irina Bas David and
Henya Bas Shaya.
we shall all be reunited with our loved ones right now.
Amen. Amen.
We'll take a selfie together.
You're supposed to turn around.
Yes, fix the hair.
Is everybody good? One.
Very important, ladies. Very important.
1, 2, 3. Yay, thank you.
Okay. Who would like to start?
I'm better now that I've seen you. I thought about wearing the
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so touched. I'm serious. ya 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 ay ya 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 ay ya ya ra 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 ya 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 ra ra ma ya ya ra ra ay ya 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 Ramaya ay ay ram ay 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 maya ya ay 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 ya 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 maya ra ay ra ra ay 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 my ra 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 ay 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 my ra ra ay 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 my ay 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 thank you so much ay 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 ra ra ma ra 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 ma ya 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 ra ya 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 ra ya 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 ay ra 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 ya 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 Rai 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 ram. Ya 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 ram. Ay ay rai 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 ram. Ya 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 ya. Ay 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 ra 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 ay 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 ram ra 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 ram ra ya 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 Rai 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 ram ay 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 ram tere rai ay rai rai ram ya ya yam ya na maya ya 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 na may are na maya na maya ya yam ya ya nam ya 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 na yam Rai 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 ram ay 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 na may na 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 may na may na ay 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 na may na rai 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 ram ay 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 ra 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 ram ay na ay ay Beautiful. We should really have the real celebration. Everybody in their personal lives, in our collective lives, in the world's life.
Yes. I want to ask what the book is called.
Oh, the book is called Toward a Meaningful Life.
Make my Hey Teve's book.
That's a real, that's great. That Ever really wanted us to do that.